All right, the Reds, here we are wearing the same clothes for the preview show. Burnley v Liverpool. We have all got other clothes. But we filmed 2 shows back to back, so before you give a stick about it, don't bother. We just filmed 2 shows back to back. Me, Gareth Roberts again, Fuad, Hasan again, Paul Cope again. I'm saying again, you might not have watched the second look, and you might be thinking, what's he going on about? Anyway, we're going to talk about Burnley. We're going to talk about Liverpool playing Burnley, and we're also going to talk about the title race. The title race first off. Liverpool getting that win against Everton was so vital, not only to just make all the Evertonians miserable, but for the title race. I mean, you know, lots of people have made the comparison, I'm going to do it as well, about Ferguson's Manchester United and the way they just always seem to win somehow. And Liverpool won there somehow. And it was massive, wasn't it? Because I think, you know, if we were sat here right now and Liverpool were, 4 points behind Manchester City, but then they've got that goal difference as well, which almost sort of kind of makes it 5. The whole vibe is absolutely different. As it is now, it's quite a good vibe, isn't it?
Exactly, that's the whole thing. You know, there's already enough spice in derbies, but the added thing of it being a title challenging year and the fact that City are doing what they're doing, it was vital to get the points as well as just get the win against Everton. So, you know, it's big in that way. And you know, if you're Man City, you're looking at that thinking, you know, they've dropped 2 points there, and then we go and score that last minute winner. For their psychology and looking at the whole thing, I think it should hopefully affect them a little bit. You might not see it on the pitch, but in the back of their mind, that thing should be creeping. That these still aren't playing to the level that we've seen them play and how they played against us, but they're really close.
I mean, there's a bit of a thing here, isn't there, like, to play devil's advocate on this a little bit about, I feel like we're spinning a little bit, Liverpool fans, do you know what I mean? So, like, I've heard this idea, and I don't know where it's come from, but lots of people are saying it, where it's like, City are set up, you know, to, like, storm out the traps, win loads of points, be loads of points ahead, and then, like, they'll lose gas in the second half of the season. It's like, where's that from? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I have this argument inside my own head all the time. Forget onto the outside world, because I do that. I go, yeah, and they run out of gas. They got tired last season, and then I went, no, they got 100 points. So there was a moment where they stuttered a tiny bit.
But they already won the league at that point.
Yeah, and then they just kicked on again and won loads of games and scored loads of goals. So I do think on the positive side, to keep it positive for this, is they've got to be. I know Guardiola says it's the league's the main priority for them, and it might be for him even, but for their ownership, it's not. For their ownership, they've got to win the Champions League, and if they're looking at everybody else in the competition, this is their best season, probably their best chance. Nobody else looks that strong. So I think if we can stay on their coattails and they stay in the Champions League longer than us, that could be a big thing come the end of the season. And the Man United reference, someone mentioned in a comment last week or the week before that I'm a closet Man United fan. There's nothing closet about it. Like, if you want to be the best, you've got to replicate what the best do. And the best in my lifetime as an adult are Manchester United, Alex Ferguson and what they did. And the Divock Origi thing reminds me of was it Federico Makeda against Spurs, when we looked like we're going to win the league, and they just had these fellas who'd pop up. I said on the last show about Origi should retire. What did Makeda do? Did he just retire? He scored that goal against Spurs and was like, it's me done. Yeah. We just won us the league. And I've always thought, and especially this season against a rival like City, you're going to need lads like that. You're going to need moments like that. And the big thing for me psychologically is, even watching Match of the Day on Sunday night, Shearer was saying, this is what league winning sides do, you know. And I think if you're City watching that, you're going, really? Like, we're brilliant. Why are they talking about Liverpool winning the league? And I know a couple of weeks ago, I'm talking for a long time here, but a couple of weeks ago I was talking about one of my mates giving this analogy of the marathon runner. And we're like the lad who's at the front with Mo Farah, but we're at full pelt and we're knackered, and he's just gliding, it's fine. And I went, yeah, I like that. But there is also an element of, Mo Farah's looking at the fella behind him, who's only got one leg, going, how can't I shake him off? Why is he still with me? He's not fit enough to run a marathon. And we're going, I don't know, lads, we're just sticking around for a bit, so we'll see what happens. Now, that's all in the context of, we could lose against Burnley or lose against Bournemouth and all of this goes. But I don't know if we can just keep scrapping for a bit and get to the City game within 2 points, and hopefully at some point the players get in a bit more form. Maybe even Origi gives an opportunity to give Firmino a rest at Burnley or something like that, or Sturridge does. Who knows? Like, who knows? I've said this before, people are talking about City as the greatest ever Premiership team, and we're 2 points behind them, and everyone thinks we're not that good yet. So there's got to be something positive in that.
Absolutely, and we've conceded only 5 goals, and they've conceded 6, so we're better than them. No. I mean, Burnley then.
Don't get that on Match of the Day.
Burnley then played 14 in the Premier League this season, won 2, drawn 3, lost 9. They scored 13 goals in those 14 games and conceded 29. Currently a goal difference then of -16, and they've got 9 points. They're second bottom of the league as things stand. There's not a lot there to fear, certainly on the basis of those stats. When you have a look sort of through the results as well, they were beaten back in August by Watford 3-1 at home. They were beaten 4-2 by Fulham, who have been pretty shit, it's been fair to say. United went to Turf Moor, won 2-0. They lost at Wolves. They beat Bournemouth 4-0 though in September. They got knocked out of the Caramel Cup or whatever it's called these days by Burton Albion. They won at Cardiff. They drew with Huddersfield at home. They got absolutely tonked by Manchester City 5-0. They got tonked at Chelsea 4-0. They got tonked by West Ham United 4-2. They drew with Leicester. They lost to Newcastle United. And the last game they played, they lost to Crystal Palace. So is this another one of those weird ones, Copey? It feels a little bit like to me where, you know, where we generate the idea that a club is a bogey team based on something that happened a long time ago. Is this one of them? People are still going on about Traore, aren't they? People are still thinking of getting knocked out of the FA Cup here. Why is there a little weird fear about Burnley amongst Liverpool fans? There is a bit. Have I generated that?
I think you're right. Yeah. And I think even me last week, I'd have been like, oh, tough away game that. They're crap now. And this is important. Psychologically, we have to go into this game going, they're crap. Crystal Palace just beat them. All those games you've just reeled off then. They've got Joe Hart in goal, who stopped being a good keeper about 3 years ago. It's no coincidence for me that those 2 lads they had who were great have got injured and he's come in and now they're conceding loads of goals. They've just... And it must be really difficult to be Burnley this season because they had such a high last season. Then they've come into the Europa League. That's created a whole new challenge for them. A club like that, it's going to be a shock to the system. They're not set up for. And I think even watching Sean Dyche talk about it, I think they've just completely lost track of what they were before. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know whether there's an element of footballers want to progress. And it's difficult to constantly get players to go out and do that thing, especially when you're bringing in lads who are now playing in the Europa League. To say to them, well, what we're going to do, lads, is just keep dogging it. They might be like, well, can we not progress? Can we not get better? Other teams get better. My only concern is, if with the way we were talking about Everton, that's a great game to come off the PSG game. Liverpool at home in this run, ironically for them, is probably a bit of Dyche able to go to them. Well, we need to go back to what we were doing. Yeah. We need to go back to basics and we need to get tough. So it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. But
there's that thing, isn't there, where that you know that teams are going to raise their games, and it feels like one of them, doesn't it, where a nighttime game at Turf Moor, under the lights, all that kind of thing. It will be the one where the fans will get themselves up for it. There will be that. I hate the word, but there will be the banter between fans and all that, because there is when you go to Burnley. And so they've got that sort of puncher's chance, haven't they? But as I say, everything there sort of suggests not really. But anyway, in the summer, me and Sam went to Burnley, went to Turf Moor. We had a bit of a look around and we had a chat to a Burnley fan. So here's that piece from Burnley. Okay, so a short trip up the road gets you here, Turf Moor. Liverpool have been playing games here against Burnley since 1894, and the record against Burnley isn't the best. I mean, don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of those games since that time, but I mean, there's one or two memories, isn't there? I think everybody remembers what Jimmy Traore was doing in that FA Cup game when Burnley knocked Rafa Benitez's Liverpool out of the FA Cup. In more recent times as well, Jurgen Klopp suffered a defeat here, a 2-0 defeat. But more recently, last time around when we came here in the Premier League, we won, and it was great. Last minute, Ragnar Klavan, he enjoyed it, Dejan Lovren enjoyed it, and the away end behind us here, they certainly enjoyed it too. So what's going to happen this time around? Well, hopefully, obviously, we hope it's going to be a Liverpool win. But what do Burnley fans think about us? What do they think about Liverpool? And what can they tell us about where we should go for a pint, where we should go to eat? And is there anything else we should know about Burnley? Or we asked a Burnley fan to find out.
I'm Robbie. I've been a Burnley season ticket holder for about 18 years now. Where we are right now, you really can't complain about being a Burnley fan. It's a tough one now because last season was such an incredible season that I don't think it's going to happen again. I can't see us being 7th again this coming season. So there is going to be a bit of a reality check, and so we've got to be a bit careful and make sure that fans don't get on the players' backs when it's a bit difficult when we're playing in Premier League this season. But I'm actually I quite enjoy that we're a bit ugly to play against. There's a bit of a snobbery that you have to play open, expansive football in the Premier League. And admittedly, we have transitioned a little bit. Last season we tried to pass it out from the back, but a few injuries and stuff, we had to go back to our 4-4-2 and be a bit more ugly. But I'm a big fan of that. I love how difficult to beat we are, and I really like watching that tactical elements of it. Watching the 2 banks of 4 really narrow. I'm watching the likes of Man United and Liverpool having to literally grind out results against us. It's actually quite nice to watch, if that makes sense. There's a Wetherspoons called Burnley, which is really good. Obviously it's a little bit cheaper, you get a meal and stuff. I usually go there on a match day, and there is away fans in there, and it's got a really good mixture, really good atmosphere in there. So I think that would be my recommended place to go.
Just one more thing, a little PS. Well into Burnley Football Club for letting us come into Turf Moor today and have a little look round. We've asked loads of clubs if we can do that while we've been out and about filming these things, and loads of them are precious bastards. So nice one, Burnley. What were we ever doing? We were just coming in and having a little chat and talking about footy. So nice one. So there you go, that's what you can do in Burnley, pub to check out there, or maybe not, I don't know if it's away fan friendly, let me know. Okay, so the last time we went to Turf Moor, New Year's Day 2018, obviously won very late on, Ragnar Klavan's big moment for the Reds, who can forget it. Klopp loved it too, when we interviewed him in the summer, he brought it up. And he said, who doesn't forget fucking Burnley, I think he said. He swore as well, so don't have a go at me if the kids are watching.
Don't think they are, to be honest.
But, well, no, people say that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, even Tony Barrett's complained about it. Said his kid was watching me. He went, "He's still doing that show where you get pissed?" And I was like, the post-match pint, he went, "That's it, yeah." He went, "Yeah, you swear too much on that." My little lads watched it. And I said, he just heard swearing coming from his bedroom and looked in and it was you. Sorry, mate. So yeah, the Reds won 2-1 there last time. Before that, going back to August 2016, early on in the season, we got beat 2-0. Seem to remember a couple of worldies there for Burnley, certainly one at least. Obviously not our day. 2014, won 1-0. 2010, we won 4-0 there. And then we're going back all the way to 2005, which we've already mentioned. You know what happened. We don't know what Traore was doing with his feet to this day. What I want to talk about now, which we didn't do in the second look, so this is the place to do it, is the squad again. You saw the team that went out against Everton, and you saw the bench there. And okay, the bench worked, if you like, in that Divock comes on and gets the goal. But I've got to hold my hands up and say that I said in the cop to my mate who stands next to me, I was looking at our bench, I was looking at who was already on the pitch, and I was going, I don't really fancy anyone who's on the bench to come on as such, really. Do Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but obviously for this game, you know, the games are thick and fast now. Klopp's got to make changes, got to rotate. Where do you see that he can rotate at the moment?
Well, these next 2 games, it's all about just getting through them and getting the results.
Yeah.
And the front 3 are the ones I'm mainly worried about because they literally need to get a rest at some point during the season. Salah especially, he's played a lot of football, and I'd probably be looking to get him off for this because Bournemouth is going to be a tough end-to-end sort of game, I think, and you know, they're a good side. It's a tight pitch and
Early kick-off.
Kick-off, exactly. And so I'd look to possibly put him on the bench for this one and bring him on, see what happens. Mane likes Burnley, so I think we keep him in for that. And you know, Firmino as well. The problem is you don't want to change too much because you want these guys to get a bit of rhythm, to get a bit of form. But at the same time, it's about getting through these next 2 games because after that we've got some, you know, really big games in the Champions League and United at home. So those are the 2 I'd be looking at. I think Fabinho was the one I was looking to start before the derby in this game because, you know, this is the sort of opportunity where he needs to get some minutes and play some football. But the fact that he started on Sunday means that, you know, he might get a little stint now. I think Henderson will be back for this one, so there's a chance there as well. So I think, you know, keep the back 4 the same, and that front 3 is the area where I'll be looking to make the changes.
What about Naby? See him getting a start against Burnley?
There could be, you could change the entire midfield because you could put
Milner was rested.
Milner, Henderson and Keita could all come in, and I think towards the end of the derby we looked tired. I think Bobby Firmino looks desperate for a rest, so he's the main one I'd be looking to rest. Exactly what Fuad's saying about the run that's coming up. And you've also, I know no one likes talking about this because he's so good and his alternative is so disliked, but Robertson needs to have a rest sooner or later in these runs, and
I don't know whether... You just guaranteed yourself some stick. Some angst in the comments.
I know. Bring it on. And look, I don't want to see Moreno play for Liverpool either, but the reality is Robertson can't play every game. I don't think. Now, there are certain players, because of their fitness and their capabilities, and maybe Van Dijk will be one of these as well, where they do just play and it's fine. My concern for Robertson is the amount of energy he puts into games. I think it's difficult to sustain that through this run we've got coming up. So maybe not this game, but sooner or later, he's got to have a rest. I think he's dropped off the face of the planet, but for me, there's an argument that Klein could have a go at left back instead of Moreno and just give you a bit more sort of solid base away games like this, but that doesn't look like it's an option. So I'd be tempted to change the entire midfield. I'd definitely be tempted to take out Firmino. Who then comes in, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm like you. I mean, the Sturridge thing, I think, you know, we all got sucked in a little bit by pre-season and things like that. I've got to say that already I'm sort of more, I don't mind him as a sub at times. I'm not sure already about him starting a game. Do you know what I mean? I'm not convinced with him or Origi as options, and I know there has been sort of and everyone wants him to succeed so much, which is great. And the same with Divock Origi. Obviously, he's just scored that goal, and there's a lot of goodwill about. But my problem with the substitutions against Everton is people assess how good the substitutions were based on the outcome, and that is not a good way to assess anything. I don't think Klopp is generally. I think Klopp is fantastic at basically everything, and I also think he's not very good at substitutions. I don't think taking off Salah in any game is a great idea when you're still chasing a win, because it just gives the other side too much of a boost. Players like him who can score you a goal from nothing need to stay on the pitch as long as they can if you're chasing goals, especially when someone like Firmino is obviously huffing and puffing, and he's had a tough season with the changes of position. So I don't know, there's various options up front. He could put Shaqiri into the front 3 and move Salah into the middle. He could, there's an argument, I think, and I feel like this is insane even saying this out loud, but off the back of the high of Everton, there is an argument to say to Divock Origi, go and have a game, go and play. Put him. Let Salah play up front and let Divock play down the right, and or even vice versa. Let him play down the middle and see, and just see whether we can just build some momentum off the back of that. Because he must be flying. He must feel 10 foot tall. He's got loads of energy, And it gives you a great opportunity to rest Firmino, so maybe that's worth a go.
It's an actual thing, isn't it, that players do have these little spells where they do something good, and then that moment, we saw that with Sturridge earlier on the season. Klopp kept bringing him on towards the end because he knew he was in that moment, and the player was in that groove where he could just produce something. So that there is actually a big shout of doing that, because I think Origi might come into that kind of thing.
It gets forgotten a little bit that Divock Origi was having a very good run in the Liverpool side. He kept Daniel Sturridge out at Borussia Dortmund, things like that. There was a time where, he looked to be a bit of a favourite of Jurgen Klopp. He's obviously had a tough time, got forgotten, being out on loan. But is there something there where, you think maybe he could just have another run, maybe he could be useful, maybe he could bring it all back, and maybe he could not end up at Everton in January?
I mean, yeah, exactly. There is talent there. I don't think that's a doubt. That he is a talented footballer. We've seen it in that run when he played in the team, and Dortmund was a really good performance. That's probably one I remember the most. And yeah, there was a point where he was considered our best option at one point. And the problem is the consistency with him. I think we don't know if over the course of 90 minutes he offers what Klopp wants his centre forward to do. I think you've seen Firmino's position change a bit this season, but you've seen the work he's doing off the ball, and even on the ball, the type of movement he's making and things like that. So I don't know if he's got that ability and the intelligence, because he's been kind of bombed out for a reason. But again, the whole thing of him being on a bounce now, that there is an argument that we should use that as much as we can for the next couple of games.
We've got to utilise the squad, whether we like it or not. We've got to, haven't we?
Well, at the end of the day, Klopp made the decision he didn't need any more forwards. So he's made a decision that he's happy with Sturridge, Origi and Solanke. Well, now you've got to use them. Yeah. It's as simple as that. It was your call. At the end of the day, look, what you're saying about Origi then, there was a time he was keeping Lukaku out of the Belgian national team. So for all, I was flippant in the second look show saying he should retire and all that. The reality is, whatever he's done in training has convinced Jurgen Klopp that A, he doesn't need any more forwards, and B, he's actually above Solanke in the pecking order, and Solanke is really highly rated. He's scoring goals for the under-21s or 23s, whatever it is. So if you're not going to give him a go, this is the bit where I always have these debates about squad strength. I've never thought, and I did debate with a mate yesterday, Origi, Sturridge, Solanke, not good enough to win the league. They're not. Not when your main rivals have got Mahrez, Silva, Sterling, Sané, ridiculous options, and that's on top of their two strikers. But if Klopp has made the decision that they are good enough, then they've got to play, because the same three fellas can't play every week. Yeah. And maybe, just maybe, and maybe this is one of those things where the manager gets to prove he knows well more about footy than any of us. And I remember writing a piece about a year or so ago about, I calculated sort of the percentage of a player's playing life we actually watch as fans, like 2%. Yeah. When you add up all the hours that a manager watches them in training compared to what we watch in matches and we judge them on. Yeah. Now, Klopp's watching him all the time in training and sees something. In fairness to the substitution of bringing Origi on, I think if you'd have brought any other player in the world on and he'd had the same impact in 10 minutes as Origi did, which was basically that run down the right wing with the cross for Mane, that hits the bar and then scores the winner. If that's anyone else, if we'd have brought on Sané or Fekir who did that, everyone would be raving off the performance and saying it's fantastic. So I think if you're not going to throw him in now, away at Burnley, who aren't that good, when are you going to throw someone in? So we'll see.
Also the games he's coming on, I think he came on against Arsenal as well, and the derby. So these aren't the games where you're thinking the manager just wants to get him on the shop window and trying to offload him and get him kind of seen by other scouts and players and managers and things. So he's coming on in big games, which means he is a genuine option in the manager's mind. Yeah.
We will see. We're going to finish with Neil Atkinson looking at the tactical aspects, but if you're going to Turf Moor, you fancy a pint, my recommendation is go down the cricket club. It's all right in there. Up the Reds, hopefully we'll be talking soon about another 3 points and about Liverpool continuing to challenge for the Premier League title. Up the fucking Reds.
Sean Dyche does not know what to do with himself. Burnley go to Crystal Palace at the weekend and they concede 29 shots. Crystal Palace had 29 shots on Burnley's goal. If you remember the fact that the football is only really in play for circa 60 minutes, probably less than that when Crystal Palace played Burnley, that means that Palace were having a shot every other minute whilst they were playing. Post-match, Dyche said that they needed, like a boxer, they'd lost the eye of the tiger, they needed to get back in the gym. Liverpool might see a bit of a reaction from Burnley, possibly on Wednesday night, but it can't be overstated how poorly they've been playing for some time now. What's he going to do? Well, I think he should go 4-4-2. It's what got them home last season in a number of different games. But because they've been playing so poorly, he's been playing Hendrick in here, just in front of the midfield to be an extra man. And he may be tempted to do that against the Reds. You won't know how Liverpool are going to line up. We don't know how Liverpool are going to line up. Are there going to be some changes? Are they going to do numbers? Is it going to be 4-3-3? Is it going to be 4-2-3-1? Dyche is not going to know that before a game kicks off. He does have Stephen Defoe back. Defoe's played a few games now on the bounce this season. He was injured at the start of the campaign from last season's injury. So he's in alongside Cork in the middle of the park, you would think. But he's making 45-minute substitutions. He's doing half-time stuff, Sean Dyche. He brought Aaron Lennon off and brought Brady on at the weekend against Palace. He moved Ashley Barnes on into the game as it wore on. He brought Sam Vokes on to try to turn it around. The fact of the matter is that this is a Burnley side that all of a sudden looks a little bit lost. If it was me, as I said before, I'd go 4-4-2. I'd go Barnes and Wood. I wouldn't mess about. I'd just have the idea of keeping the game, stay in the game with Liverpool, make it as awkward and gnarly for us as possible. It's a Wednesday night, they are at home. But frankly, this is a Burnley side that is in a bit of a mess. There's no other way to say it. There's no way to dress it up. Liverpool should be going to Burnley as clear favourites. They should be playing as clear favourites. It's a game we should win.